I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, the center of the galaxy. Your parents used to vacation there.
I knew it!
Very well. Obviously, space aliens are very big in Roswell, but the summer that I turned 10 years old, Little League Baseball crash-landed in my neighborhood, and it was even bigger. The big thrill initially of Little League Baseball was that we got to wear ill-fitting, hot, scratchy uniforms. So ill-fitting that we looked like prairie schooners when we ran from base to base. Our league sponsor, the local Lions Club, didn't have enough money for lettering. There were no team names or numbers on our uniforms. The only way we could tell each other apart was by our caps, but not always. Sometime the home team, red, because we had a whole lot of caps, also played the visiting team, reds. There weren't as many cap colors as there were teams. Our sponsoring organization didn't have enough money either to provide us anything but the absolute worst playing field in North America. Hard-packed clay, not a blade of grass on it. Foul ball down the third baseline would bounce halfway to Carlsbad Caverns, 80 miles away before it could be retrieved. And we only had one game ball. The outfield fence was a wire held out by a few stakes. We had no dugouts, no restrooms, but hey, we were kids ready for an adventure. We could thrive under any circumstances. After all, remember, we had survived being born to moms who smoked, drank, and ate tuna fish straight from the can while we were in the womb. And then they put us in cribs painted with bright-colored, chewable, lead-based paints. We had no child-proof lids on medicine bottles. We had no concept of safety helmets when we rode our bicycles. And we drank and we shared swigs of knee-high soda straight out of the bottle without having been inoculated for cooties. That was how tough things were. So you give us a baseball field, we were ready to play, and we did. We had a really big time that first summer. The regular playing season was over too quickly. All of a sudden it was time for our all-star team to hit the road to participate in other tournaments. My two friends, Danny Peters and Dick St. John, and I decided that we would take that opportunity and stay home and practice our baseball announcing skills. We were 10 years old. We were too young to be on the All-Stars, mainly 12-year-olds. And so every few nights we would camp out in Danny Peters' backyard, eating milk nickels and drinking Kool-Aid out of a World War II canteen that we'd gotten at Army-Navy surplus store. We began every evening by analyzing every newspaper clipping, by analyzing every rumor we had heard that week having to do with the progress of our all-stars. It also helped that Dick St. John's dad was the coach that gave us some inside information. Then, as we lay on our cots beneath the stars in the land of enchantment, we would formulate the starting lineup for the next game, and we would announce it, always in such a way that Roswell won. We'd say things like, ground ball to shortstop, Jimmy Valdez picks it up, goes to first base, out number 3, and Roswell advances in the tournament. Or, bottom of the 6th, 2 on base, Jordan and corks a homer, Roswell wins again. To this day, we're pretty sure that it was our prognostication as junior baseball announcers that aligned the stars so that our All-Stars won in Carlsbad, Los Alamos, Lubbock, and San Antonio, getting them an invite to play in the World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. To get to Williamsport, which is the mothership of all Little League, they had to take a train to Chicago and then a second train from Chicago to Pennsylvania. There they were up against well-funded teams who had been there before. 1956 was the 10th anniversary of the World Series of Little League. Only the first year we had even played organized ball. The people in Williamsport, all the other teams, sort of snubbed their nose at us. They didn't think we were worth much. As a matter of fact, one of the Pennsylvania newspapers had a headline that said, "Roswell where?" Well, they soon had to get them a map because Roswell won the first 2 games. And all of a sudden, Danny Peters, Dick St. John, and I found ourselves gathered around my little Philco radio listening to the championship game, Roswell versus Delaware Township, New Jersey. KGFL, the local radio station, claimed that they sent Stan Gallup, their sportscaster, to Williamsport to cover the series. They lied. Stan spent the week holed up in his house so no one could find him. Then they had to sneak him out and into the studio so that he could broadcast the game from a teletype machine. We thought we were listening to a live broadcast from Williamsport. We were listening to a teletype feed from the local studio just a few blocks from our house. There is such a thing as justice, though. In the 3rd inning, the teletype machine died. So did the station manager of a heart attack, almost, but not quite. Stan Gallup was pretty resourceful. All of a sudden, he said, "Wow, there's something big going on out there in the field. The umpire has called a timeout. This is going to take quite a while. Why don't we go back to our studio and listen to some music until it's resolved?" Nobody remembers what the music was. I have a feeling, though, it consisted of that old record called The Great Pretender. The teletype machine wasn't down that long. Stan came back. It was the top of the 4th, magically the top of the 4th. 2 men on base. Jordan hit a homer, and Roswell was ahead 3-2. Play-by-play then for the rest of the game. We were on pins and needles, hoping that Roswell could hold on to the lead. Finally came the biggest play we had ever heard in our young lives. It went like this. Ground ball to shortstop. Valdez picks it up, throws it to first base, out number 3, and Roswell, New Mexico is the champion of the world. Note that he said champion of the world, not just world champ. It was a really big deal. Such a big deal that President Eisenhower invited the team to stop by the White House on their way home. However, there must have been something involving the military-industrial complex that day that commanded his attention because he couldn't meet with them. They took the train home, and guess who was the first one off the train? Stan Gallup, the sportscaster. KGFL had driven him east of town a few miles. The train stopped. He got on so that he could keep up appearances when he stepped off at the depot. The team was followed closely. It wasn't too long until Little League officials from Williamsport came to town also. They wanted to see if our playing field was as bad as they had heard. They took one look at it and wrote us a check for $30,000 so that their 1956 World Series winner would have a decent playing field. The next year, 1957, we figured that our all-star team would easily get back to Williamsport. They might not win, but they would certainly get back there. It had been so easy in 1956. Plus, thanks to the Williamsport officials, 1957 regular league play, we had played on a field that had grass, an outfield fence, we had several game balls, we had dugouts, and our teams had and our uniforms had our team and our number on them. So imagine our consternation when in the very first game of the local all-star tournament, Roswell was paired with lowly Tucumcari. That was no way for us to prove how great we were. Nobody, Tucumcari couldn't beat anybody except Roswell that day. 1956, our team had won 15 straight to win